11th, 2021 meeting of the Grandview Heights Board of Zoning Appeals. Let's start with pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here.
Batsman?
Here.
Chair Kinzinger?
Here.
Director Boucher?
Here.
Director Keller? Here.
We've got 2 different sets of minutes to approve. Everybody had a chance and ready to vote on those.
I'll be staying for the first one for the Batson.
That wasn't that long ago. For the first one, right? Okay. So, Megan, you want to?
Yep. All in favor, say aye with, or those not in favor say nay, with Stein and Batsman abstaining.
So this is for the
June
June
9th, 2021 minutes.
Okay. Aye.
And then for the second set, the July 14th, 2021, is there a motion for approval?
Yeah, move to approve.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor say aye, those not in favor say nay.
Okay, now, anybody who's here, we're going to administer the oath to tell the truth. Even if you think you're not going to speak, this is pretty easy if you would join me in this. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I swear to tell the truth.
I swear to tell the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Okay, Megan, do we have any changes to the agenda or request for postponements?
Nothing aware.
Okay. Then we will move on to case number 1. BZA case 19-2021, West First Avenue. Applicant Philip and Kimberly Barger. Owner Philip and Kimberly Barger. If you are here?
Yep.
Okay. You want to?
I'm not Mr. Barger. I'm the architect on the
Okay.
project. So,
Okay,
would you
yeah,
like me
you wanna
to
just-
stand?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure where is there somewhere we're standing now with this arrangement?
Anywhere you're comfortable. You're
Okay.
going to be heard by the mic.
This is good. Yep.
So yeah, just if you can just kind of run through what we've got in front of us.
Sure. The property, as you said, is located at 1262 West First Avenue, single-family residence on a corner lot. The Bargers wish to add to it, obviously, from what was submitted. One of the objectives here was to get a first floor master suite, which the building now does not have first floor bedroom. I don't know if you've noticed, but Mr. Barger just had hip surgery and is in need of getting everything on one floor. So that was one of the goals of the project. They're also a multi-generational family and have children and grandchildren living in the house, and more space was needed for that in the way of bedrooms. They also homeschool some of the grandchildren, and they're in need of additional space for that. We just wanted to generally upgrade the property. If you've seen it, it's got, I know this isn't a zoning issue, but they do have asbestos siding on the property now. We're proposing to eliminate that and just generally improve the property, new windows, new roofing material, landscaping, etc. And they'll eliminate a curb cut. On the side street, there's a curb cut there now that would go away. So that's another goal of the project. So that's really all I have to say right now. Do you have any questions?
I think next we'll move on to staff report.
Sure.
But we probably will have questions. So.
Sure.
No, we don't.
Sit down.
Sure, you can.
Okay.
So, generally speaking, I would say that, we certainly commend the applicant and would agree that it's going to be a big improvement to the property at large. We have a few concerns with some of the specifics in terms of the compliance with the intent of the design guidelines and some of the amount of construction being requested. So I'll just kind of go through it by the numbers, if you will. You can see actually while we're on this particular exhibit on the screen right now, you can see that the particular corner lot that they're on is a little bit short, and also is in a string of lots that have curve to them, so the front yard setback varies along that stretch, just while we're looking at that. Beyond that, you can scroll through the images, Megan. You can see on the third page, continued fence that was referenced that will need to be removed and repaired as part of the construction. The lower image there shows the alley view with the existing fence that is there today. And then the next page, the front shows the fence against Willard, so that you get a sense of how things look today. The site is quite flat, nothing really remarkable about it. No major natural features of the lot. There's a big tree that will, I assume, need to come down, but it's already been trimmed kind of funky back by the alley. There would be some opportunities for trees on the tree lawns, and I don't know if you're familiar with the city program to help get trees planted in a tree lawn, but if not, there is a program, and that might help get some of those trees planted as we try to improve the street tree coverage in the city. Just as a note, there is sidewalk on both frontages, and no issues there. And jumping to the specific requests, on page 5, I'll kind of take them one by one. They're a little bit intertwined because there's setback requests and there's lot coverage requests, and altogether they kind of, feed each other, if you will. But I try to kind of pull them apart as the ones that seemed reasonable and ones that maybe could be tweaked a little bit. So the lot is a little bit smaller. It's about 88% of what a normal corner lot in the RS2 district would need to be. And it's a little bit less wide. It's about 52 feet wide versus the 60 that's required. And just a note in that regard, it's a lot further required with the 12-foot variance they're asking for in the side yard would come down to a 4-foot variance. And as you look at what would make a usable geometry for a new room, you kind of need a certain amount of space. So that's sort of driving the dimension there, I think. I would note that the house directly across the street to the west of Willard has actually about an 8-foot setback existing today, so it would match that, which maybe is not so bad. And overall, the total side yard setbacks, if this were to corner lot, it would need the 12-foot required for a normal lot, so to speak. Just as a note, not that applies, but just to give you a sense. We recognize the practical difficulties with regard to the configuration and the depth, a little bit shorter depth of the lot, and the logic of having a side yard addition here, and would recommend approval of this particular variance request as that goes. The second request, the yard requirement for corner lots with regard to accessory uses and specific to the swimming pool. I went back and looked at definitions. Our definition section doesn't differentiate between above ground pools and in-ground pools, but if you read the overall definition, it certainly seems to be getting at things that are above ground in terms of they're kind of next to, because they're so close, or sightline kind of challenges. So given that this is an in-ground pool, I don't see that it triggers any of the concerns that this particular variance is, or this zoning provision is aimed at safeguarding, and so we don't have any issues with this request. I would recommend approval. The next one is the yard requirement for corner lots accessory uses and detached structures with regard to the detached garage. This is where we start to see a little bit of interplay more so between the side yard setback, the width of the lot, and the overall lot coverage, and how these things might work together. Might present some opportunities to maybe, there's a variety of, just to kind of go through it. If the lot or the minimum width of 60 feet, the proposed garage wouldn't need a side yard variance, so there is some evidence that the non-compliant lot width is what is causing the basic problem. That having been said, the lot coverage overage is arising because of all, full complement of all the different things that are being done, and it's a relatively significant overage. If the garage were reduced in size a little bit, it would not only come down and kind of being within what the total square footage coverage for a lot, if it were code compliant, could be, but it would also bring down the coverage variance down to 45%, instead of the 47% that was requested. And perhaps, not sure what all the goals are for the garage, but it's possible that a second level garage storage could maybe compensate for some of that and reduce the footprint. That having been said, I'll say the 24 by 30 garage doesn't appear to really negatively impact surrounding property or sight lines. It's far enough away from the corner. So depending on how overall lot coverage might otherwise be able to be reduced, maybe it's okay. So you've got to kind of balance ultimately on what some other revisions might want to be. As it sits, we would recommend disapproval until some of the are maybe brought into line a little bit closer with what the standards are. And maybe it stands as it is, and maybe it gets revised as part of a constellation of revisions that gets closer. With regard to the corner lot and rear yard fence, the design guidelines and fire board guidance have been supporting a maximum 5-foot high fence for side yard conditions such as this. This is an existing 6-foot high wood fence, and it's being replaced, as far as I could tell, in place and in kind. And I think that the replacement really arises because they have to get in there to do construction, maybe also condition and look that close at that. But nonetheless, a 5-foot high fence may be to bring that condition into compliance with current design sensibilities embedded in the design guidelines. On the other hand, maybe you could split the difference, and I think this is a point that you can certainly talk to the applicant about some options. The front yard setback, the existing house obviously is where it is. Where this starts to integrate with the design guidelines and other things in the code is that the design guidelines would like to see that addition step in from the existing house so that you could still see the corners of the existing house. And if you did that, you would meet the letter of the 30-foot setback. It doesn't appear to pre-emerge in terms of the design itself. There seems to be room in the rooms that are there to do that without compromising function. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing, but that's what it looks like. So disapproval of the specific request in this regard until those setbacks and step-ins are brought into alignment. Let's see. Lot coverage, again, the request, again, the lot is a little smaller than a code required typical corner lot. However, it's not super unusual for the area. The code compliant lot was 8,200 square feet. The maximum lot coverage at 40% would permit 3,280 square feet of built coverage. For this lot at 7131, maximum lot coverage at 40% would yield 2,925. The requested coverage is 3,400 square feet. If the applicant were able to reduce the coverage by just 120, it could be compliant if the lot size were compliant. So that starts to give you a sense of what the difference is between how to make it compliant. If it was a compliant lot versus not, it was 475 square feet over, given that the lot is smaller. Here again, just because of the number of variances that are being requested and the overall kind of impact of all of those put together, we're recommending disapproval for the time being of the lot coverage because it appears to be pretty pretty possible to bring the addition into closer compliance with the zoning code without really sacrificing substantially the outcomes that are being sought. With regard to aesthetic review, I think it's a handsome addition. The fenestration is, in compliance and in alignment with the intent of the design guidelines in the existing home. Getting rid of the asbestos is obviously a great outcome, and the way that the exterior is being presented seems to be in compliance. We just really have two comments on it, both of which again are kind of interwoven with the lot coverage and setback questions. One would be to, again, do those step-ins on the front and the rear of the side yard addition, which is a two-story addition, so that you can see the corners of the house. Would probably get you back a good portion of the square footage that you might need to for lot coverage. And then also the three-bay garage is certainly larger than traditional garages in the area, and larger than many of the garages really in the area, even today. Made larger yet by an unbroken, consistent facade. Would be relatively easy to introduce a step somewhere there, or to change the direction of the roof or part of it or something to get the scale of that garage to be broken down. So again, more so because of the impacts related to the changes that the board might choose to pursue with regard to lot coverage and side yard setbacks. It's not that I think we are supportive of the design intent. It's just that until we get some of these other things more in compliance, we would recommend disapproval on the design guidelines, aesthetic review as well. And that's my report. Happy to answer any questions or make any clarifications.
All right, thank you. Do we have any adjacent property owners who would like to speak?
We are adjacent, well, we're the next door neighbors, so we were just kind of curious this doesn't show any of the address. We're 1254 West First. So we just didn't know what the plan was, so I guess we came down just to see. We weren't like trying to be, so.
Okay.
So I guess if there was a plan that, is the garage like disconnected at the back by the alley? Or is there plans?
Can you put the plans
Yeah,
on?
yes. Go up to the first page of the text, that one there. Okay, so there is a garage in the back on the alley.
So the garage is like on our side, am I reading that right?
Yes. On the alley.
The whole back of the. And then is the fence that divides our two homes one of the things that was gonna be changed, or is that stay the same?
I don't think that's the fence that you're talking about
No.
replacing, right? It's the fence.
Yeah,
that's-
may I
Sure,
just
certainly.
point out the garage here? This would be the property line, I believe, that you're referring to. So that fence will stay, there's no work plan on that fence, it'll stay right where it is. The garage is this rectangle right here at the moment. And yes, it favors in your direction, it favors to the east of the Barber's property, and is back 5 feet from the alley. And the doors, of course, are on the alley side. And then this is the view. This side view here is what faces east.
And how deep is it from the 5-foot setback? How
Right now,
deep
it's
is it from-
yes, 24 feet deep by 30 feet wide. The 24 feet from the alley, it comes back 5. That's where the rear face of it is, and then 24 feet into their lot.
mean, I guess our only concern would be, because one of the things that's going in there is a pool, right?
Yes, that's the plan. The pool is over on this side, it's on the west side of the garage.
Is there a fence that would enclose it, or just the fence that's between our properties?
Just the fence, this fence is the fence that's there now, and on the Willard side, and then there would be no new internal fence, we have the perimeter fencing.
I guess that would be our only concern. I mean, they were marvelous when we put our addition on, because our house is also too small, which theirs is the same. It's just as too small as all the rest of the Grammy houses. So they were amazing during ours, but that fence is definitely not structurally sound, or I would be really concerned about it being, we had talked to them about when we put ours up about kind of doing it, and that would be that's the only thing we see. It's their property, do what they, but we would be concerned if that, I mean, there's the 4x4s are missing, and it doesn't seem safe, especially if there's a pool there. I guess would be our only, but yeah, I mean, they were marvelous when we did ours, so.
I would say with adding the pool, the yard is then required to be fenced in, and if the existing fence isn't adequate, and needs to be repaired, it would have to be.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I think we probably would.
And we would replace that.
Yes.
Okay. If there's any other community comments? Anybody else? Okay. So we'll move on to board discussion of this.
First question I had, are you counting the pool toward the lot coverage?
We do, because if it's full, it essentially can't soak up any more water, right? And it's defined in the definitions as a lot, as per lot coverage.
I did have a question from the staff report. This is me just going back to I'm supposed to be the arbiter of numbers on this board. I just want to make sure I'm not missing something with the 40% calculation. In the section we talked about the lot coverage and the fact that it's 40% of compliant lot would be, and then the 40%. The 40% of 7131 is.
Number wrong.
I think, unless there's something I'm not understanding about how,
Math works.
it is just 40% of 7131.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
I'll tell you, I did have a wrong, I'm sorry, I had a wrong number in there for the lot coverage, looking at a different document. So yes, that 2925 should actually be 2852. My apologies. You're always good at that.
Sorry, what's that number again?
2852, which would then make where it says 475 square feet over would become 548 square feet over.
All right, Mr. Janowski, you want to shoot your thoughts first?
So I just want to be clear, the staff recommendation was making adjustments for lot coverage to bring it closer or within compliant. What was the staff recommendation?
I would say closer, and I'm trying to kind of recognize the interplay between all the different things that they're asking for and looking for things that make more or less sense across the various considerations. So how do the design guidelines play into the lot coverage and the setbacks and all that kind of stuff? So I think in a nutshell, what I would maybe invite the applicant to explore, or maybe respond to, would be, could you imagine shortening the side yard addition somewhat so that you could get 8 inch to 1 foot setback in from the existing corners where you're proposing. I want to say it's a new bedroom. I don't have a plan that's super right in front of me, but and excuse me, and perhaps consider or maybe speak to whether there's an opportunity to either reduce the size of the garage or the size of some of the single-story addition components to get closer.
Yeah. Yeah, let me just, if we may just have a quick discussion. I think,
We talked about him.
Yeah, I would say that we would be willing to make adjustments, after restudying things based on your comments. And we just, I don't know procedurally what that means, if we can, we have to come back in a month, if we do something and it gets approved during the permit process, or how that works, but you might advise us on that.
Yeah, right now, I think let us get a little deeper into the conversation and
Okay.
get a feel for,
Sure. Okay.
I guess, the magnitude of the changes we're talking about. We do sometimes conditionally approve if it's something we're comfortable doing that, but if it gets to be larger, then we kind of want to see a resubmission. So
Okay.
we'll see what we get here. I guess maybe before we get to some of our thoughts, I guess I have a question, maybe a pointed question about, when we consider variances, it's done in light of a hardship. And we try to keep in mind the legal definitions of that as established in Ohio for a hardship, for a variance. And I guess I haven't seen much in the application or heard much yet about what you believe the hardships are that are created by this law.
Okay. I think in my opening statement, I think I would just refer to the things that, creating a first floor master suite, since Mr. Barger's just had hip replacement and is, I don't know if you're going to need another one or not, but in any case, getting everything on one floor was a goal here. Is that a hardship? Yeah, I think it is. Considering the lot, something that came out tonight that I didn't realize is that this lot is a little smaller than your typical lot in the neighborhood as far as the width is concerned. So, but that's, anyway, I'll state that as a hardship. Another thing was just getting a dedicated classroom in the house, since they homeschool grandchildren. Again, is that a hardship? I think to create the space, maybe within the footprint and in the site circumstances that we have, it is. And then the other thing is that there's a multi-generational family, and they just need more space. That's my statement as far as hardship.
Okay. I guess I just want to be clear with staff, check with Director Kelfer, that when we talk about this lot being smaller, it's actually bigger than the standard RS2 lot, right? But it's smaller than the prescribed RS2 corner lot.
That would be correct.
So it's actually bigger than most
It is actually
of the
bigger
lots in the
than
neighborhoods.
most.
But
the most
because it's a
lots.
corner lot, it's smaller than our prescribed, what the zone prescribes for.
That's
Okay.
It is a little less deep than many of them in town, which is part of why I came to support the side yard variance, because I think there is logic to the addition wanting to be in the side yard because of how, not how shallow the depth is for the lot. That's one of the more unusual considerations. Beyond that, you're exactly right, it's larger than many lots, which is actually letting you build more than you would be able to build if you weren't on a car lot. just from a lot coverage perspective, but that is where it begins to be a measure of a judgment with regard to how much a variance needs to be granted for a reasonable use of the lot to be able to be extended.
What's the thought process on going from a single car garage to a large 3-car garage?
Well, the garage that's there now is really tiny, and I'm not going to say it's not usable, but it was.
Not for our vehicles. We have pickup trucks and Suburban, it's
Yeah.
not big enough for ours.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't get their vehicles in it, so, like most of us, we've got multiple vehicles these days, and they just need the space for that, plus lawnmower and, normal lawn equipment that we have.
Joe, I feel like I cut you off.
No, I mean, this just feels like it's going to be represented just based on the plans submitted, the notes from staff. I understand the need to add, the first floor addition that is part of the aging in place process. I understand the side yard setback, but I'm not seeing, you're basically building a house around the existing house and adding the pool and adding the large garage. Like, all of that into one is making this a much more complicated project than what we usually have presented. So I guess I would refrain until we have a proposal update.
I have a question. I'll direct this at staff first. So, do I understand this correctly? If we were to reduce the size of the garage, or if the size of the garage be reduced and bump in the 1-story addition on the east side, that would solve a lot of the problems, if not all of them?
Would solve a lot of them. I don't know, we have to, I don't think you're gonna get there on lot coverage without sacrificing one of the rooms.
Right.
Really, because it's, 540 square feet. Reducing the lot or reducing the garage and setting in the house might get you a couple hundred square feet. But I think there's still gonna be a lot coverage overage that is gonna be part of the application unless you're willing to consider reducing one of the rooms.
To give me an idea what I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I'd have to discuss that with my client as far as reducing the size of one of the rooms, but I think, just hearing what you're saying, I think that the offset in the front and reducing the size of the garage is maybe not going to solve all of the variances completely, but it'll get us closer, I think, to numbers that hopefully we can all live with.
Can I understand a little more of this offsetting? I'm not
If
clear
you
on
look,
what
so
it
it's
is.
really clear, actually, the easiest thing to do is to come to this page.
Yeah.
The page from
The
the.
staff report, the second to last page of the staff report.
Yeah.
The proposed, go up one from there.
So it'd be on the front elevation. No, that's not.
Well, so this
Those
is,
are in your
this
code.
is from the design
Yeah.
guidelines, and what they're proposing is not too dissimilar from the bottom version, where you're just kind of extending the front wall, extending the roof across. It changes the perceived scale of the entire house.
Yep.
Whereas the design guidelines really prefer to see the scale of the original house able to be perceived even after the addition is put on. So, and we've got many fine examples of those kinds of additions that are in the city. If you really just step back the front and the back, where it's running into the existing house wall by 8 or 12 inches, and lower the roof a little bit, which will happen naturally because the span is less, you can get the impact on the top, which is the preferred version by the design guidelines.
I also have a question about square footages that are listed on your cover sheet. When you have the walk-in garage apron calculated, how are you getting to the 170 square feet?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'll talk louder.
That's
I'm
okay.
trying anyway.
on the
In your
third
lot
page.
coverage calculations?
Yes.
How are you getting to the 170 for walks and garage apron?
Remember, all of the new walks are all brick.
Yes.
Dry joint brick. The 170, I believe someone told me that I didn't need to calculate the garage apron.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would be the front walk. There's
Okay.
the walk leading, I'm not changing the walk from the front steps, front
Okay.
porch to the walk out on West First.
So then you have that listed on here as 100 square feet. Should it be 100 square feet up here?
I'm sorry, yeah, come in.
Sure. So you have, up in your calcs, you have it listed as 170, but
Yeah.
here you have it listed as 100.
Okay.
I think like, if you guys are going to resubmit, if you could make the square
I'll
footages
check
clearer.
that, sure, I'm sorry if there's a discrepancy there. I don't know what other walker would be, because, like I
That's
said,
what I was
everything else
wondering.
is gonna be new brick.
Yeah.
For the board and the architect, I think I know we looked at this, the two stall garage concrete apron, we wouldn't count, but we would count for the third one.
Okay, so that would probably.
And
Oh, is that it?
I think we did
Okay.
do that in the
Okay.
calcs, our calcs, but, you know, we should be checking.
So along those lines, I think that they're, like everybody else has, or the other people have spoken said, I think that it's possible to get you down closer to the square footage, the
Mhm.
lot coverage, with some changes. But also, I think it would help to have the square footages.
I'll look at those
Yeah.
and check them, sure.
Yeah, I think to give you, it's always tough to give you a target of what you should come back with, because we're gonna evaluate whatever you come back with on its own standing, right? So, I guess what I would say is that we traditionally, when it comes to lot coverage, are we very easily approve a lot coverage that would, square footage wise, that is what you would get if you had a compliant lot, right? If you had, in this case, if you had the 8,200 square feet. That's usually pretty easy to get. In this case, that would be, and again, I'm struggling, I don't want to give you a guarantee, come back with that and install,
Yeah, I understand.
install
Yeah.
green lights, but that's typically, we're very amenable to that. So in this case, that 8,200 square feet, 40% of that would be 3,280. And what is the amount that the requested is 3,400, so that's that 120 square feet less that would get it there. I do think that the stepping it in has a lot, I think the aesthetic review portion of this, I think the idea, and I believe the design guidelines use the phrase subordinate, right? That additions should be subordinate to the original structure.
Mhm.
And I think, for me, that's something that is sticking out to me about what we've got in front of us now, that it does not appear subordinate
Mhm.
as the design guidelines would like it to be. I think there's other suggestions to make. Certainly the three-car garage, if the intention is to have 3 vehicles in there, then the suggestion doesn't help you, but there are lots of new garages going in these days in Grady that have a walk-up storage area, built-in stairs, walkable storage area. If the intention is storage, that might be something to look at. And certainly that would obviously immediately get into the lot coverage. If it became a two-story, I mean, a two-car garage.
I also have a couple questions about the pool area. I guess, you're obviously gonna need some area for all of your pool equipment.
Yep.
So is that all supposed to be located within the garage? Is that the intent?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, just a question, but having grass around the pool, is that going to be able to be maintained with this small, like this small width on the west side, and then like a pinch point near the fence? Or is that something that, and this is just something to think about, is that something that would be better as a pervious substrate?
Possibly, yes, possibly. We could just continue some brick border around the pool and then get rid of that. Yeah, that maybe hasn't been thought through as well as it should have, but I understand your point.
What's that?
Any additional comments or questions?
I guess one thing just to address, I feel like the board is probably perfectly fine with the front yard setback, but I want to kind of get a feel for that. They're going to be showing that. In my mind, it's really because of the non-rectangular shape of the lot is why that front yard setback is only going to be.
Well, I think if they're gonna look at stepping back
That's
the
true.
addition, then that completely changes that. Because it's 29 feet, one, to
Yeah.
the corner of the house, that's not to the corner of the front porch. So that's even larger into the 30 feet. And I don't know what the depth is of the front porch right now.
The porches are able to extend into that front
Okay.
window.
All right.
Yeah, but you're right, if it gets set back a foot, in order to make it, bring down the roof line, and then it's not, the variance won't even be.
Well, in this case is a little more, I mean, three of the items, it looks more gregarious than it is, because three of the items are related to the side yard setback. So if I'm reading it, our information correctly, the setback items we are comfortable with as presented in general terms. The fence, it seems we are in agreement with in general terms. So it's really the lot coverage and aesthetic review on the addition seems to be the points that the applicant will be revising.
You have a good point about the fence. Have we seen anything that indicates what this fence is going to look like? I don't remember if this is a
No.
solid wood fence or a...
Currently, it's solid wood and 6 feet high, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so that would be a
And that-
question also.
Yeah.
Typically, the rear yard fences are 5 feet.
Yeah, on corner lot.
On a corner lot.
Typically 5 feet is what we've seen a lot of.
I see, okay.
Um,
I was just going like for like,
Yeah.
so it's there now, and same on the east side.
Yeah, and on the east side, that's a more traditional,
That can stay 6 foot.
yes. Yeah, that's a more traditional backyard fence, by the way.
Gotcha, okay.
We look at that, and the way the zoning looks at that. That could stay 6 foot, but we probably like to see the one on the west side at 5.
But there would be some consideration made for the 6 foot because it's currently a 6 foot wooden fence. It's being built in the same location. It's not causing the site issues that some corner lots present. But technically, yes, the side yard facing the alley, the code is for 5 feet.
5
So
feet.
at 6 feet, you would need the variance,
Correct.
even if you're replacing it.
Correct.
If your fence is 5 feet, you would not
Don't
need
need the variance.
You wouldn't need the variance.
Correct.
But that's kind of a gray area that one could go either way, just because you're replacing
Mhm.
same fence, same location, same type of material,
Yes.
those types of things.
Yep.
The other consideration for the west fence in particular is that it is adjacent to a pool, so a 6-foot fence may be more logical just for pedestrians walking by. Within
3 feet.
Yeah, yeah.
And at this, sorry,
No,
at this time, would we be looking to table this motion?
yeah, typically, we get to the point where if all of my fellow board members have said their piece, we get to a point where we then ask the applicant if, hearing this conversation that went on and feedback that's happened, would you like us to proceed to vote or table this for next time? And obviously, table it and come back with a different submission.
If we ask for a tabling, would we be on your next agenda in September?
I believe so.
Yeah.
If
We would automatically, we wouldn't have to like reapply and start the process.
But we will re-notify the residents.
We'll re-notify the residents, and then what's our timetable to get our revised drawings into you and requests?
It's similar, I think, I forgot what the exact date is, but in your
It's on-
case,
whatever's on your
about 2
schedule.
weeks before the meeting, that
Yeah.
would be fine.
Whatever's on your schedule,
Yeah.
basically. Okay. Okay. So I think would request a table and come back in for your September meeting.
Okay. I guess before we do that, do you have any last questions for us?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to offer, we're happy to work through the revisions with you, give you some feedback, and
Sure.
to have a better shot at maybe getting things where there can be improvements.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I know Liz has got a lot on her plate, but I would recommend taking your up on that.
Okay.
Happy to.
All right.
Oh, we need a motion?
Yeah, you need a
Yeah.
motion.
Oh, okay, that's
I will make a motion to table case 19-2021 until further notice.
I second.
Stein?
Yes.
Glassman?
Yes.
Demasky?
Yes.
Chairman Peter?
Yes.
Yes.
Table.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Before we go to our next case, I know you've done it dozens of times, but I think you walked in late, so we need to
Oh,
swear the oath. I swear to tell the truth,
I swear to tell the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Okay. So now, BZA case number 2 of the night, BZA case 20-2021, address 930 Northwest Boulevard, applicant Brenda Parker, owner Brenda Parker. And if you want to tell us what we've got from us.
I own the building at 930 to 932 Northwest Boulevard. It's a very unique building. You would think it's a duplex, but it's actually a 3-unit. So I live in the 930 side, and it's a townhouse. And then 932 is a one-bedroom apartment, and 932 and a half is a one-bedroom apartment. So it's a three-family dwelling. I have an existing three-car garage in the back off the alley. It is a concrete block garage with stucco finish. A significant amount of the wood on the inside has been eaten by termites. And so I need to kind of gut all the wood and put it all back together. Since I have to replace most of the roof, I thought it would be a great opportunity to add that storage space and add a stair up to it so that I can cart materials up there easier. The stair reduces the 19-foot length parking space by 8 inches. So it's 18 feet 4 inches instead of 19 feet. So City of Columbus, it does meet City of Columbus parking space size, just not Grandview parking space size. So it's still a viable parking space. When I bought the building, the only parking was the 3 cars in the garage. I did add another area to the north of the garage that can be used as parking, so I have a total of 4 parking spaces. However, the zoning code states that I need 6. I believe it's 2 per dwelling unit. I need 5. 1 per bedroom. Yes, I have 5 bedrooms. The 2 one-bedroom apartments, and then my townhouse is 3 bedrooms. So those are the 2 variance requests.
And just so I understand, when you say replace all the wood, is that because it's stucco, it's basically just the roof? Or
It's the
is
roof,
that
and I've
also-
got demising walls on the inside that are all eaten up. And then
Okay.
the wood that the garage door attached to is all eaten up, so
Okay.
I
But
have to.
essentially, the exterior walls.
The exterior walls stay, yeah, mm-hmm.
Okay. Staff report?
Certainly. I think the applicant has given a very good sense of the project, so I don't need to belabor that a bit. The second page of the staff report gives you a little bit of a sense of the layout. What isn't showing in the top image, that if you were to go down there today or if you had a drone to take a photo, what you would see is that the single-family homes and the row of garages that have been built down in Grandview Yard are existing today as well. So very, very dense alley, garages facing the same alley. So moving on to the site and services overview, really no distinguishing characteristics on the site. No other significant natural features to discuss, and really no issues with any of the utilities or safety with regard to this project. In terms of the parking space request, the length of the parking space request, again, as the applicant stated, the renovations are all internal. The garage footprint isn't getting any larger, so there's not really an opportunity to make that the length any longer. The change is minimal. It doesn't impact functionality of that parking space. I actually went and looked online today to see how big vehicles are, and there's several feet remaining in 18-foot space. So we don't have any issues with that at the reduced length, and would recommend approval. In terms of the number of parking spaces, it's an existing condition. It's another situation where we're looking at an existing condition and bringing it before the board formally to record the granting of a variance, but there's nothing that's been done by the applicant other than actually to improve the situation that has caused a variance, and so again, would recommend approval. The geometry of the lot, you just could not get another space on the lot. And have access to a drive the way the lot is configured. And then finally, with aesthetic review, proposal we would say is in keeping generally with the design guidelines. The existing exterior will remain, the home is stucco, the existing exterior of the existing garage is stucco today, will remain stucco. The new garage doors being maintained as individual doors, keeps the scale reasonable, So we don't really have any comments with regard to aesthetic review either, and would recommend approval on that count as well. It's really more maintenance and repair kind of application, nothing too major in terms of the architecture.
Thanks.
Before you go into deliberation, there is a discrepancy in our code. We identified this parking space as 9 foot by 19 feet. But if you go to our definition 77, it requires 9 feet by 20 feet. We did do a liberal interpretation, meaning we take the lower one, but there may be something the board might want to look at when they change, for changes to the zoning code. And also consider that the vehicles are much bigger in some cases, so you might want to take that into consideration.
So then moving on, the next step is if we have any members of the community who are here, who'd like to comment on this case that's in front of us. Yes?
Make sure to state your name and address.
Okay, I'm Shelley Schwartz, and I live at 923 Pullman. I'm just representing the neighbors that live behind in the Grandview Yard. I'm still a little unclear. It's very tight back there. And we just want to make sure, we just want to understand, because we didn't really understand what the letter was about. We just want to make sure that they're not going to come deeper towards our garages, because it's very tough to manipulate around. So they are not going to extend into the alley any farther than they already are. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, are they allowed to go? You know, we just don't want to make, we just want to make sure that they're not. That's our first concern, number one.
With the garage accessory structure unit,
I'm sorry?
with the accessory structure unit garage,
Right.
they can move that garage to the edge of the property line.
Okay.
They can't extend into the alley,
Okay,
but they
okay,
can go to the property line.
okay.
Just point of order, I believe it's actually 3 foot setback, is that correct?
Yeah, typically it's a 3 foot setback, but however, typically the aprons are 5 feet, and that's what we would normally like to see, so they would never have it right on that property.
Are they Grandview Yard homes have a 5-foot apron?
That's a different approval, that's a GCMX.
Different zoning.
Yeah.
I don't believe they do.
Correct.
I think that's
Right.
4 feet.
So your development is a separate residential zoning code.
Okay.
Your development doesn't mandate you to step back 3 feet from the property line. So unfortunately, the garages, the tightness is being created on the other side of the alley, because those garages are closer to what the garages on this side of the alley can be. So some of that,
Oh, that's fine. We just were concerned that it was going to cut the space off even more,
right, this applicant, they're using the existing
the existing structure.
structure. They're just really doing everything from the brick up and all the wood.
Okay. Some neighbors had sent some emails and letters and photographs. Were those not
Yeah,
received? Oh,
they were.
Okay.
Yep.
And the other reason, and does it matter if it's a garage, what happens inside that garage? Because I don't think cars park in those garages. Do
Yeah,
they?
it certainly doesn't matter to this board right now with this question in front of us. I don't know if there's other.
Typically, our enforcement is that we want you to park vehicles in the garage and not on the street.
Right.
So, you know, in this case, if once every few years we go through the alleys and we see that, yes, they're packed full of stuff, and we remind them that we're supposed to use those spaces for the cars.
Has that happened in this situation? Because we've had many instances.
So my tenant is the hoarder.
Okay.
I'm the owner. I drive that. I'm in that last car, the Audi A3.
Okay,
So-
it's not the big red vehicle that was even there
No,
today, blocking the
that's
alley.
my tenant. So he's an electrician, and And so he uses the garage to store his electrical materials. And so he pulls up there to load his car and go out to his job sites.
But if you look at some of the pictures, like from Williams up the alley, and not that this is any less relevant than any other trade or profession, but we have 6 doctors that live within the first 4 houses. And whoever's hoarding in all of those garages, and if you look at some of the pictures, there have been many instances, and doesn't look anything like electrical equipment. It's bathtubs, miscellaneous junk that looks like it came from the TV show called Hoarders. And many times it is all wrapped in that alley, blocking everyone's way. The red truck, people have asked them nicely to please move, not to block us in, and it doesn't always happen.
I'm the one that tried to do the organization and made him clean out his garages. So we
Okay.
got rid of a lot. There's still
okay.
more to go.
Okay,
And my son is turning 16, so I'm going to be taking over that middle parking space.
Okay.
And so he's going to be delegated to just the end.
Okay.
And I'll have him pull into that north gravel area instead of on the apron.
oh, okay.
So I've been working gradually to try to solve our
Okay, well, maybe
our
if
challenges.
this gentleman in the black shirt, if he said that it's kind of the community's responsibility to make, because has a car ever been parked in any of those garages?
So
Or-
the tenant and all that stuff was there when I bought the building 10, 12 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm just now to the point where I'm starting to try to address it.
Okay, because it is a concern, and one
I
time.
understand.
One time, one of the doctors, and they're both ER docs, all three of the 4, almost couldn't get out, and somebody had to get ugly with the man, and I just want to make sure that it's on record here in this meeting, that this man is a nuisance, and those garages are, if you look in those pictures, there is very little that looks like what would belong to an electrician. It looks like the TV show Hoarders, and some days it's just everywhere, and it's kind of a train wreck back there anyway, with people not taking care of their garbage, and we have critters that are getting into our areas, and everybody tries to do their best, but it's really a nuisance. So hopefully, I'm sorry, I know it's awkward that you're here, but we're just concerned, and,
Yeah, so the good thing is that I'm a landlord that lives in the building.
Oh, good,
So
okay.
I'm the one that, I pick up the trash in all the neighbors' yards.
Okay.
Because
yeah.
all the other properties are, the landlords don't live there.
Oh, I figured, and I think some people are gonna start reporting them, because people have garbage cans, but they rarely seem to be able to get the trash in the can, and a lot of us just pick it up because we live close enough that we get the rats and the roaches, and,
Yeah.
so, yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure that hoard wasn't causing a
So
problem.
we do have those emails and pictures you're talking about. I believe we've
Okay.
all seen them. They got distributed.
Okay, and maybe if he learns now that the city is involved, and he could be evicted if he doesn't.
But the city is, we're just the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Oh, okay.
Let me address, let me help them, for all the residents, really. Technically, garage storage means any building or premises used for housing only motor vehicles, other than trucks and commercial vehicles. That's what you're allowed to store in that garage by our technical definition. If you run across somebody that is, quote, ordering, call our office, because we have property maintenance. If we can see it when it's open, we can send them a note to say, hey, you're gonna park your vehicle in there, you're gonna just use it for miscellaneous storage.
Okay.
And I know that in the past, we've started this notion of being able to store on a half-story up thing, and that's probably good, so that we can get some of the vehicles out of the street. But sometimes, even us pushing them, we may not get the results.
Okay,
Okay?
sure, thank you.
Okay, I guess if there's any other community comments on this, not what I get. So I'll move on to board discussion. Anybody have to go first? Rick?
I have this question.
I have one question. What's the kind of goal or intent of the project?
You mean the goal for the half-story upstairs? So the long-term master plan, is that I want to finish the basement, and so I need a place to store the materials and equipment that I need to maintain the property. So that would go up into the above garage space so that I could have a finished basement.
I have no questions.
Yeah, neither do I. I agree with when Director Covers said this is kind of a housekeeping. It's just getting the variance on record for the existing footprint that's there. Anything else? Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve BZA case 2021. The applicant is requesting variance, or for a variance for section 1155-14A to reduce the length of the required parking space enclosed from 19 feet to 18 foot 4 for stair access. To approve the variance request for section 1155.13B to reduce the required parking spaces from 5 spaces to 4 spaces for a multifamily. And to approve section 1155.07 for aesthetic review procedure for alterations to an existing detached accessory garage.
I'll second.
Johnson?
Yes.
Shawna?
Yes.
Knosky?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Chair Kinzinger?
Yes.
Approved.
Okay. For case number 3 of the night, BZA case 21-2021, 1340 Mulford Road. Applicant Austin and April Lowe.
Both. Yep, just like Rogue or both.
All right. And owner Austin and April Lowe.
Just point of order, they did step in after you administered the.
Oh, thank you for pointing that out. We didn't do that. You can raise your right hand. I swear to tell the truth,
Swear to tell the truth.
the whole truth,
The whole truth.
and nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm Adam Wilcox from Transform Construction, their general contractor, kind of doing the rundown of what we're looking for with their assistance. So, project as a whole, we are actually taking an existing detached garage, which is in not great shape, pushing it back a little bit on the property, increase green space availability for the family. Adding an additional pass-through or aluminum fencing to, again, enclose the space for young child and children and pets. And then adding what is now currently a 3-season room in pretty disrepair into a conditioned living space. Currently, the reason that we would like to kind of push that garage back and add a little more square footage to it is that existing space is constantly full of dust and moisture, and currently storing pretty much all of their exterior furniture that they use for their life. So we want to kind of move that into an adjacent space and obviously give them the ability to be in their yard and their neighborhood kind of at all times. So, general, are those any additions to that?
No, I think you described it well. I'm sure we'll get into some of the discussion.
Okay, thanks. Staff report.
All right. lay of the land. Let me just say to the applicant, I don't know where you came up with the original image of the advertisement for the home for sale from 1911 or 20. It was pretty neat to see, so. Very
She
cool.
found it.
Thanks for
That's
sharing.
actually the design aesthetic that we were trying to achieve as well, is to match the original
Yeah,
intent of the period style.
yeah. So you can see on the top image how the existing garage is set forward a little bit into the backyard, and the adjacent garage next to it will be more, where the garage is moved to will be more in line with our existing adjacent garage. The bottom photo there shows you the existing covered porch that faces,
Basically,
Hope.
yeah.
Yep. And then the next couple pages on, the next couple pictures on the next page show you both the image from the alley, looking at where the garage will be relocated to and the fence replacement. And then the one on the bottom also shows both the fence that's existing there as well as the kind of rise from the sidewalk that this particular lot has. So that is a relatively significant feature of the lot. As we look, site and services is really nothing major to bring to your attention there, so I'll move on to the site considerations and recommendations section. With regard to the side yard setback, again, just for your information, the lot is just a little bit smaller than a normal corner lot, and not normal, I shouldn't say, because many of ours are non-compliant, but the code mandated 8,200, it's about 7,800 square feet. The width is compliant, however, at 61 feet versus 60 feet for the code requirement. The existing house sits a little bit justified towards Hope, so it's currently about 9.5 feet from the lot line on the side yard, which is really where that variance is arising from. It's just, again, a little bit of a housekeeping piece in terms of the transition from the three-season room to a fully conditioned space there, not changing anything. And then aligning the proposed patio and pergola covered area really with that kind of the niche created by where that porch sits out. So this particular variance is really driven by existing conditions, and we don't have any issues with any of that, and would recommend approval. With regard to the moving of the garage, the accessory structure size, it's fairly nominal. The request that's being made is only for 50 square feet over the permitted size. It doesn't come anywhere close to exceeding the lot coverage limit, so only 36% after this is completed. And I just want to point out that this code provision seeks in part to maintain the size relationship between the house and the accessory structure, so one doesn't get very out of scale to the other, a subordinate characteristic. It was mentioned earlier, traditions also kind of applies here. And then also would note that even though the pergola means that we would have a porch, we have a pergola, so we don't count the square footage because the roof is open, but it does impact the perceived scale of the house. And so from that perspective, you really could have a larger garage if that were covered. And I think the scale relationship is helped out by that. So Director Bochet and I had a little bit of a conversation on this particular point and went back and looked at the Duncan rules for other kinds of situations where variance might want to be granted. And in this case, we recommend on this point also approval on the basis that it's a minimal request that will afford relief to the property owner without negatively impacting adjacent properties, which is one of the provisions outlined in Duncan. So we would recommend approval in this case for that request as well. With regard to the corner lot side and rear yard fence, similar sort of situation for some of these other cases we've been seeing a lot of these, it seems like recently. 5-foot fence is recommended. The design guidelines do articulate a preference for a wood fence. However, we've been seeing a lot of these black painted wrought iron-esque picket fences, which seem to be something that is popular at the moment, and certainly they look very nice. I didn't find, maybe I missed, but I couldn't find a height listed, so I don't know for sure what the height.
So we actually
I think would prefer to go shorter than what's existing there today, the maximum probably of 42 to 48 inches.
Which we would agree with, that seems to be the sort of right height for that style of fence. So we would be fine with that in terms of recommending approval, unless the board has any other feedback. So with that, if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Okay, I guess first, well, I'm guessing that we don't have anybody else in the community here to comment on this. So we'll move from that to board discussion. Maybe I'll go first, but just with the question on, with the, I guess it's not, is there, I would ask staff, there is not a variance about the fence that we're doing.
There's just an obligation to review it.
Because it's a corner lot.
Right, we're just approving it.
Yep.
Okay, so then I guess, I'm struggling to think about that, what are we approving since we don't necessarily know, like, we don't have to approve an exact style and an exact height today, but if we're going to approve something, I think we'd like to approve no higher than X and of the style, like, what, you know, we're just
So
saying
like
a, you know, at least 75% open, black, metal, you know, something like that. So I guess
And we would be okay with that if there's a provision for some approval notes that indicate maximum height and limitations of style. I think,
Would the conditional approval be, you know, no greater than 48 inches, aluminum, you know, locking gates on either dual positions or single position, or?
yeah, we wouldn't even get into the gates. I think it would just be,
Yeah. Right, I think you
Right.
could just say in keeping with the submitted.
okay,
style.
right, in keeping with what's the styles that were submitted as part of the application. And if you're comfortable with no more than 48 inches?
I think so. The fence that's there today, I mean, if you look at the hill that was discussed earlier, it's a big hill. And like, you can almost look out, and a privacy fence that's even semi-private can almost make it feel too private, in my opinion. We're kind of social people, and we like to say hi. But if we actually want to make it more open and less private, because that hill gives you a natural privacy barrier already. You don't really need more privacy, in our opinion. Enough to keep the pets and, you know, some safety, some basic safety features of the corner lot, but for small children.
Okay, so if you're good with it, then I think we're gonna proceed with the conversation, at least up here, that we're talking about of the style that was submitted and no higher than 48 inches.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Great. I generally, for my fellow members up here, I was just trying to tell what it is we're talking about. I didn't want to put words in anyone's mouth about what we're in favor of.
And if we were to change our mind, we can always come back for re-review.
Sure. Anybody want to, any questions or comments?
It's not the most relevant, is that staircase on the side going to go away?
It goes away. Yep. It's in disrepair, it's a safety hazard, and we would prefer the primary entrance be directly in the back or the front.
I think there's a landscape plan in the rear of that packet that would show that kind of enclosed green space, eliminating that side entry.
Are you eliminating the front concrete walk too?
No.
Okay.
No.
Remaining.
that remain?
And the whole that stairs, everything, we've made, that's different, we're keeping everything now.
I mean, on the front. Yes.
Okay, not, I mean, the columns are gonna go, but the concrete work is all staying.
Yep.
So in the back, under the trellis, that's new concrete, and then a walkway back to the garage.
There's an existing deck, and underneath of that deck, they built a deck structure over a patio structure. A long time, I don't know how long ago that was, but that deck is rotting and it needs to be dealt with. So our thought is to demo and replace.
And then the additional patio area is going to be, is that pervious?
It is, actually. That's actually supposed to be slated to be like a gravel.
Yeah,
that's gravel. It's actually a raised garden area for that back portion, and then
It's not a built-in fire pit. It would be like a solo stove type of a fire pit. I think it's there for
yeah.
intent and purpose of understanding the plan.
So I guess, my one question would be regarding, another question, regarding the garage. So is the intent to use this as yard storage and also car parking?
Yes, the additional square footage that I think I said is just about 50 square feet past is really for the storage portion. It's also eliminating the 18-foot parking spaces in the back now as we shift it. And that's to keep their cars safe, obviously in the garage and off the street, in the front and sides.
And charge.
And charge, sorry.
And charge the cars.
If you have an electric vehicle, it sometimes can be challenging if you're parking outside the garage structure. And
I saw the plug sticking out from under your garage.
Yeah, charge in the rain. It's, I think our intent is to park in the garage. So currently today, the side porch is, we use that as storage because it's really, all that space is really fit for today. And I think we want to improve the structure, we want to improve the house and kind of, make that nicer and make use of good space. And I think part of us building a modestly larger garage is being able to park in there and store lawn equipment and store, the things that we have. I think that's the general intent. And also, as part of that, by moving that structure back, is increasing the green space in the lot.
I would ask staff, I think you said something I just want to be clear on, that the house could be bigger.
House could be bigger,
And then,
yes.
but I'm wondering if the house was big enough that we wouldn't need this garage area. We're not approaching a lot coverage issue, or are we?
Actually, do that calculation, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I guess we're right.
Yeah, I thought I heard earlier it was 36%. I think I heard.
Right. You're, yeah, I'm looking for the total, as it sits, the total actual square footage.
They would have to come back if they put a roof over that patio, and we would address the lot coverage for that. And I understand you think about the relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
The original intent was to put a roof over where the pergola is.
Yeah.
And after seeing the plan, we thought it was too much.
One question, I guess, regarding a pergola. The intention is that it doesn't extend past the line of that house, right?
Correct.
Of the now enclosed unit.
Right.
I think there's some, I don't know, discrepancy or lack of clarity in the survey we got for exactly how far that is from the lot line.
Okay.
And so I would suggest to the rest of the board that I think we need, when approving that variance, instead of saying 20 feet to 9.5 feet, it's 20 feet to a dimension in line with the existing house, or how do you want to do that?
Existing porch.
Well, yeah, it's existing, it's porch now, and it's,
It is.
Right, and there, we scaled it at
Right.
9.5 feet. The engineer didn't give us that. He gave us a dimension to the deck,
right.
but not to the
I'm just thinking, since it's not exactly called out on the survey, it might make more sense to call it out that way.
Okay.
But,
I've got the calculation done in case you're
Yeah,
interested. It actually lands right on 40%. So you
Okay.
could cover that entire patio and be right within the limits
and then not need a garage.
and not need
50%
garage
variance.
variance, just in terms of understanding the scale of.
And that's why I was
Yeah.
asking, right,
That's
just,
correct.
it's really the same scale that we're talking about, so.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty comfortable with all of it. Great.
I am.
So, anything else? Right. Make a motion. You want me to do it since I, okay, complicated? Since I complicated, that's what I learned. Complicated.
I make a motion to approve BZA case 21-2021 for a variance for section 1155.09A, section 1, to decrease the side yard for a corner lot from 20 feet to an amount in line with the existing screen porch for, along the east property line for an existing porch enclosure in the crawl space foundation. To approve section 1153.02A to increase the allowable square footage of the accessory structure from 645.5 square feet to 695 square feet for a new garage. To approve section 1155.15D for a fence in the side yard adjacent to the street or the alley on a corner lot. The fence should be similar to what was presented in the packet of a black aluminum or wrought iron appearance fence, no taller than 48 inches.
I second.
Podolsky?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Count
Yes.
Chair Engineer?
Yes,
Approved?
thank you guys.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Okay, other business, I have a couple of quick things. I wanted to get anybody that came up recently, there was a applicant from a few months ago who asked who said they were uncomfortable with their floor plan being available to the public on the website, and asked if they would be coming down. That's gonna be a decision that I don't know, mayor or city council or somebody else makes the decision of when they come down. I just wanted to mention it to see when we, like, what would we feel about it? Do you use it as a resource? Do you use going back to past applications? Do we want that to be on there for a certain amount of time after the meeting, particularly after approval?
So you mean what you go online and look at?
Yes.
No, I want that to stay perpetually.
Well, it is still public information, right? It's still, somebody can come to the building department and request it, or see it. This was someone who felt uneasy about those plans being available so easily. Okay.
I can help you guys. Typically, other jurisdictions, they don't keep them on there for many years. They will take them down usually 2 or 3 meetings after that, or maybe at the end of the year. And then a reminder that all the stuff that is on there is scanned in our electronic files. So that anybody who intends to steal something or whatever would have to do a records request to us to get those drawings. So, I was involved with Joel, and I mentioned that we probably should take them down after 3 or 4 meetings or in that range, because they're not really necessary. Then if you need, in your deliberations, you need old cases, typically other jurisdictions will put old cases in the packet. It all depends on, how critical the case is, meaning that there's a lot of opposition or, stuff like that. So, I think we're going to tell them that, after 2 or 3 meetings, we don't need to have them on there anymore, and force the people who want to, look at the plans to come in and do a records request. That way, if, somebody wants to do something that's out of the norm, break in or whatever, at least we get some idea who requested it.
All right.
So that's why when we go to the new software, not for our building department, we have all these documents, but we're not going to open that up. You can go and look for your permits for your property, but the drawings, you've got to come and ask us.
Is it possible for us to see them though? Because I think, personally, I think it would be helpful.
If I
There's
remove,
a handful of things that I've looked at.
I can kind of clear some of it. If I remove them off the website, which it'll be me, you can't see the links anymore, or go to the folders and see the files. You'd have to send me an email and say, hey, can you send me the case documents for
Right.
Joe Schmo, 1221 West First Avenue.
I think the other thing that this gets into is for new people on the board, it's really hard then to, unless like we're gonna do a better job meeting and talking about what obviously we all have different opinions, but what the general consensus is for a number of things, like fence heights or corner lots. I think that if we are to take it down, then there needs to be more discussion with new board members, because there's then nothing for them to reference.
Are you talking just floor plans, or in this scenario, all of this information would also not be included?
Just the drawing packets, the agenda still would be there.
Yeah, the agendas will remain. There's nothing wrong with it.
But the applications, everything they submitted would be.
But the applications and documents would be removed.
Right.
Staff reports,
Well, not necessarily. We're talking about the drawings portion of it. Those could be removed easily without having that.
I would support removing, if you designate a drawing as a proprietary document, subject to, I can't use one of your designs on a different house because I went and got the plan and then copied it. So I would support that, but I would like the actual, I love to go back to PZA meeting August of 2003 when we told the developer no, So I like being able to access that, and I feel that in today's
The discussions, the minutes are on there.
Right.
That would tell you why it was not voted or turned
Correct.
down. What we're talking about is the documents related to the physical structure.
Just seems like an odd request. I can't recall a break-in where the police are like, how did you do it? Oh, I got the plans from online.
We've had inquiries of the same one like this over the years. People are concerned about the final plan, not about someone copying it. They can go online and copy all the
Right.
plans from all over it anyway. But Yes, some people, we have had inquiries about, my drawings should be on there. Generally, if they weren't on the website, they said, well, a records request would have to happen. And that's how we treat it, to kind of put a stop to somebody wanting to do it. The other thing is if the board wants previous cases, that's another, that's time that we would have to put into it to bring those forward. Like we could put all the corner lot fence on every application, because that's what we mainly see as the corner lots.
If the board wanted to see a previous application, do we have to go through like a formal records request?
No.
Okay,
No,
that
we
could just be email.
Just email, yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about somebody off the street going in.
Would it be easier to have a checkbox on here? Do you want your plans rescinded after X period?
Right,
I
you
think
just
that
have
this
a
is gonna
blanket
get to
policy.
be a policy,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not gonna be able to be a one-off kind of thing. I would say it's worth discussing, I don't know how quick or how long something like this might take, or whether it would even happen, but whether there's an IT solution that might allow the BZA members, planning commission members to maintain access to those files over a longer term. I think that's a question for Brian we could ask.
There could be a network
Yeah.
that maybe it'd be the planet or, like you said, BZA planning commission.
Like a login.
Have access to.
Something like that, there may be an IT, I would think, there'd be an IT solution for whether, how quickly it might be able to be implemented is a different question. I think, to Director Boshane's point, really, the city's never gonna keep every case that we've ever heard on there forever. So it's more a question of how far back we go and how long we keep them on there. And I think that, I appreciate the comments and then the need to refer to prior cases, but I think the city, for a number of reasons, not only the public access and security issue, but also for the, just a space on web servers consideration, has to kind of make a policy around that so that we stay reasonable with the amount of data we maintain public looking anyway.
Yes.
I don't know that we have an answer yet, but we'll talk to
Yeah,
IT.
you can
and
look at
see.
the agendas, I think, how many years was that on there?
2010, 2016 on the website,
Yeah.
since
I mean,
I've been uploading.
That probably has a lot of the cases that you would have an interest in, offenses and stuff. If you go through those and you find any, we can help you with that and get you that information. I mean, I don't know how far we want to go with, we would put previous minutes on there for a case that was offense, for
Right.
example. I mean, that's about as far as I would go for us, because now we're talking about staff time to get that stuff and put it in there. We would have no problem giving you the minutes of another case that was offense if you wanted that. And then again, I think it's about how controversial that case would be.
Sure.
That's really all.
Okay. No, I kind of just wanted to get a conversation.
Yep.
Didn't expect a resolution.
Yeah, I think we can take your feedback back to the administration too, as this continues to be discussed, because I don't think there's a resolution at the administrative level yet either, is there, Chairman?
Joelle and I emailed back and forth. I told her what I just had said to you, we don't, we would ask for a records request if someone wanted the drawings, and they only need to be on the website drawings for a certain time, because the agendas are on there as long as, we keep them on the web, and the minutes are there. So the only thing you don't have is the drawings.
I have a question for Meg. Since you're the one that's putting them up there, is this stuff, are tags created for cases? So if someone wanted to search, show me all the cases within 5 years that had side yard setback, variance requests, and a front yard, I mean, how, when somebody's looking for information, how do they find it? They just gotta go through them?
It's not that crazy, like you could search and you could put the word corner lot
ever talked the word corner lot, or fence, or pool, garage.
Yes, that's why I was asking her, does she have like an internal tagging, like, that's different from just?
I don't have an advanced system where I can say 1155.02 and corner lot, just as an example, where it would.
Actually, let me help. The website might not, but our SkySite storage does.
I guess that's what I'm doing.
You can put in specific things and it'll grab all files of them.
So if someone wanted to build a case for themselves, they could come in, make a public request, and actually do that search and maybe find those cases?
Well, no, they can't go in and do a search on our.
Well, I mean, ask for someone to search for that?
Yeah, they can do that, but specifically, we would start to ask, what's the address that you're looking at?
Okay.
Because, again, yes, we can give them the records, but if it involves substantial staff time, we're gonna have to charge her to do that, because if I can't get her for a week, like 40 hours, looking up stuff for somebody on a fence. And I understand that you're trying to learn and do all that, but that's part of every time we have a new member, there isn't really a program that really teaches you how to make a decision on some of this stuff. Other states, in New York, there's a class you take for 80 hours and you go through that. That should be more the level for any training. It's hard to guide you on that part. We can give you stuff, but there's more technical training that could happen. It's outside of it.
Well, and the other business thing I wanted to ask is, I think everybody but Andy's done, like Joel's little training, right? Or is that not true? You've done it, right? Yes. Really?
Yeah, we did
Okay.
online.
And I couldn't remember if you had or not.
It was
Okay.
almost right after, it was like a year.
Okay, so I must have been like right afterwards.
Yeah, it might have been like a short.
That's something I can.
She has the electronic version of that.
I do, yes. And if even once you have the electronic version, if you're writing that you still would like to have a meeting, or not a meeting, but to have the training course with Jill, I can have that discussion with her. But yeah, what I can do is I can provide the legal training PowerPoint that she presented the previous year. And then if you'd like additional information, you could by all means contact Jill directly, or if there's a greater need to have a training training meeting, but it's not going to be public.
Yeah, right.
Then we can follow that course.
I know that this is on the mayor's agenda as well, understanding that it's something that needs to be created, an onboarding process for BZA planning commission members. It's a discussion that we've been having. It's a matter of getting to it, like with everything else. But I think what Megan is bringing up, that we could maybe do a training for the newer members who haven't seen that presentation, and go through some of the high level guidance for how cases are considered.
Yeah, it can also be good just to ask questions to Joelle from like the legal side. I know I asked her things like, what do you wish we wouldn't say? Like, are there things we should be saying or doing or whatever? It's very relaxed about it.
The legal answer to that is say as little as possible.
Yeah, right.
What's nice about our format, it's not as formal as larger cities and some stricter cities. We have the benefit of, we could say, what has the fire department said? No problems. What is legal advice? No problems. If we have a question about section 1155.02C, we have Charlie here to clarify that versus 5 of us clarifying it our own way.
We also, at least as long as I've been here, probably all that long, we've never gone into an executive session either. And I don't know if that's legally permissible by the bylaws here.
Yeah, I rather doubt it, although that's a good question. I tend to believe, I've certainly never seen it. For BZA, I believe it's only accessible for council, and it's only at a very minimal guiding note.
there were to be a case that would require executive session on BZA, I think you'll all be here.
Right, I think you would know about it. Right.
Well, there have been times when we've had discussion where I've thought to myself, this is probably more appropriate because there are some things that could be said inadvertently that could be challenged legally should someone get sued. That's,
Well, executive session is really for maintaining the privacy of transactions.
Yeah,
And
financial stuff.
copyright and things for folks, not necessarily for things that may be involved in lawsuits.
sure.
but-
I know I've seen it.
But anyway, I think we can clarify that as well, if you will, just as a question since it's come up tonight. And as we continue to have these conversations with regard to when and for how long pieces might want to stay fully publicly accessible versus only agendas and staff reports remaining accessible, we can continue this conversation with the board.
You're gonna find that we're not gonna have executive session.
Yeah, no, I was.
Session. It's a public meeting that anything that you have to say, they've got to know about, because you're gonna vote on that.
Any other staff communication? Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.